Carvin, I have a number of hypotheticals for you, and I'd be grateful if we could run through these fairly quickly just so I can get an understanding of your position. So the first one is that the state decides that each county can have one polling place. And because of who lives in larger counties, that creates a disparate impact, that black voters have to wait in line for 10 times the amount that white voters do, 2.5 hours instead of 15 minutes. Is that system equally open in the language of the statute?
I would think not. Equally open means takes into account demographic realities. If you have one polling place for 5 people and one polling place for 5 million people, obviously in the latter situation, those people do not have an equal opportunity to vote.
Okay, so how about this one? That's helpful. That's helpful, Mr. Carvin. A state has long had 2 weeks of early voting, and then the state decides that it's going to get rid of Sunday voting on those 2 weeks, leave everything else in place. Black voters vote on Sunday 10 times more than white voters. Is that system equally open?
I would think it would be, because let's think about it. Sunday is the day that we traditionally close government offices. It would be the exception rather than the rule to have government workers come in on a Sunday.
It's an exception to have government workers come in on a Saturday too. That's not a real problem.
Well, I mean, there are Sunday closing laws, as we know from McGowan v. Maryland, which are different than Saturday. But in all events, Saturday would implicate other religions.
Okay, so that is equally open. Thank you, Mr. Carvin. Can we just go on to another one? The state says we're placing all our polling places at country clubs. And that decision means that black voters have to drive 10 times as long to the polls and have to go into places which are traditionally hostile to them.
Yeah, I would think that would provide them with less opportunity than non-minorities.
And why is that?
Well, because they have to travel further into hostile territory where non-minorities can travel one block to very sympathetic, under any definition of whether or not they have less opportunity.
The state says we're going to have Election Day voting only, and it's going to be from 9 to 5. And there's plenty of evidence on the record that voters of won races are 10 times more likely to work a job that wouldn't allow them to vote during that time period. Is that system equally open?
Seems like it, because that would be pretty much the status quo in 1982. And, of course, if it was 8 to 7, you could make the same argument about
How about 9 to 3?
I think any time you diminish from what I will call the usual burdens, if you went to 15 minutes, to use an extreme example, then obviously you're effectively denying the opportunity.
So 9 to 5 is okay, but 10 to 4 would not be okay? Is that the idea?
Again, these are all hypotheticals that have never existed in the real world.
This seems like, this doesn't seem so fanciful to me. States are doing
may or may not be.
9 to 5 is okay, 10 to 3 is not. Is that the idea?
Again, it's a sliding scale, and I think the farther you get from the normal hours that were extant in 1982, the much more suspicious it becomes. If you want to
Justice Gorsuch?